Hi, I'm Augusto. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Meshape. Meshape is the largest API hub in the world. We have almost 70,000 developers, 5,000 APIs, and we do around 10 to 11 million transactions per day. What I'm going to talk about today is how APIs, cloud APIs, are changing data, the way they sell data, the way they distribute data, and the way they consume data. But mainly, the focus is going to be on business, the way companies monetize those data, and how they consume them and how they actually buy them. So I don't know how many of you are actually classified as developers or have been developers in the past, but the market is changing very, very rapidly and is growing very fast because the numbers of developers in the world is growing exponentially, and this is, I think it's driven by a lot of reasons, but mainly it's because the skills to be a developer is decreasing, the demand is increasing, and China and India are producing a huge number of developers per year. And that's pretty a mass market, and those people actually have way more power than before. So what's happening now is called bottom-up approach, where companies like GitHub, for example, they can get into Fortune 500 without having any sales, because one of those developers from the Fortune 500 will start to use their product, and they will adopt, they will pass to other co-workers, and then they will adopt. And at the end, you will have like 200 employees adopting that tool and paying whatever, $25 or $50 per month. And at that point, the CIO or whatever will come in and say, okay, let's do an enterprise deal, and then you will jump up revenue by millions, but you never had a sale, so the cost per acquisition to get that Fortune 500 is pretty much close to zero. And that's what's happening. Like another company growing very fast in the data business is Elasticsearch. So those are all companies that they start with no sales, and they grow very fast because their primary customer is actually the developer. And those developers have power and money to make decisions because usually they actually have their company credit card, and it's around 10,000, 20,000 per month, and they can use them without asking permission, have a budgeting or have a procurement. They can just use it, and then you start with like really a plan for $50 a month, and then you get locked in and you grow your company, and at the end you ended up paying 2 years after millions a year without even knowing about it. So the market is very big, and actually this number is a little bit old. The last time he said was Joel Posky from Stack Overflow said there are 25 million developers in the world. It's probably now 35, and this is according to Stack Overflow. I think the number it's about right. So APIs. So when companies talk about the apps explosion, the economy of applications, actually what's happening is that the underlying architecture is APIs. So all this mobile, from fridge to Tesla to iPhone to tablet, what's powering that is actually APIs. And the way it is because APIs are the fastest way to move information from A to B without having a particular shape, and so they can adapt to any client wherever it is very, very fast, and so you kind of cut down cost and time and development to spread out your software, your data, your solution everywhere you want. So this is I think this is only the public APIs chart. What's really happening underneath is the private APIs as well. So every app you build now has a private API inside. So what it means is that you build an API first, and then on top of it you build all the rest. APIs in every sector. That's pretty much. Let's say you probably have your Fitbit or something, or your fridge or your Tesla. They basically are connecting hardware, not only software, to obviously software to software. By the way, they're connecting hardware to hardware, and they're getting everywhere. Like the Pebble Watch has an SDK, they can build the apps on top. So those are all APIs. Companies not related with technology, for internet technology, like Ford, General Motors, they sell cars. They now have developer programs to sell all their data through APIs. The first actually, Chicago Transit Authority was the first transit authority in the US that opened up the first API, and they called it traffic data available for developers around the country. So and obviously Philips was the first company to have bulbs, light bulbs that you can program through APIs. So they're really getting into any sector. HP has now, if you go to cloud HP, they have now a cloud platform to sell a lot of their data through APIs. And I think the next evolution is going to be health too. Philips is actually developing a healthcare platform based on 4 years of IP that they're going to deliver like AWS does through APIs as a service. So cancer detections, bone detections, all the IP they have created are now going to run over a server and distribute and sell through cloud APIs. So it's going to be kind of the AWS for health in a way, and more companies will follow in every vertical. And telcos are probably now the biggest API companies in the world, even if it's on the whole API way. Like they're mainly SOAP, they're not RESTful yet. But like AT&T has inside 1,000 to 2,000 internal APIs, and multiple team and multiple division works together using their own internal APIs. So probably telco are the the biggest consumers out there of APIs. We can skip this. So let's get to the business a bit. You can monetize your API when you open public or you give it to partners like Netflix. Nextbiz is the first enterprise completely API-centric. In 2010, they rewritten everything from scratch, and now they're running entirely on many internal APIs. The reason why they did that is because to distribute all their data and all the content across the world, at that time was 200 devices, now it's more than 1,000 devices. APIs was the best way to do it, and so they reached Daniel Jacobson, I think, came in 2011, completely rewritten everything, assembled the team, and now it's an amazing enterprise, 100% API driven. They have a lot of internal API, and they have APIs for partners. Like when you want to develop the Microsoft Xbox, if you go Google TV, Apple TV, those are all partners API that connect to Netflix to access content from Netflix. The way you can charge for an API, there are many different ways. The unit API calls or API transactions. And it's basically every time a client pings a server, that's an API call. And majority of API companies charge by that. But if you're like a completely, let's say you're selling venture capital deals of the last 20 years through APIs, that's probably not the best way to monetize your APIs. You want to move to data points. So every time you, let's say, it's not by API calls, but it's about article, it's about, I give you 10,000 data points per month every time you access the data or every events, we're going to charge for it. Word processing, status, that's very good for Twitter analysis, face detection, through a database as a service like MongoDB, you probably charge per gigabyte or per megabyte. So you can really charge for whatever object you want to charge for. There is no limit about what you can charge for. If you're an SMS company like Twitter, you're probably going to charge per SMS or MMS or voice. If you're a transcoding video service like Zencoder, you charge per minute. So there is no limit the way you can charge and monetize your data through APIs. Those are just the main ones. This is another interesting thing happening in the market. So you have an engineer, an evangelist, and a business development, all 100% focused on the API part of your company. And if you look about like 5 years ago, those three weren't even here. They didn't exist. Their software was built, consumed, and sold in another way. But now if you go a company hiring, cloud-based company hiring, let's say more than 20 people, there is software engineers, backend engineer, DevOps engineer, system engineer, and at one point you see API engineer. And that's exactly engineers who work on the internal API and eventually the public one. When they have a public, then you will see that they will hire evangelists. So evangelists is kind of the new sales model to attract developers. They will go out to hackathons, events, and stuff, and they will just organize and spread out the word of your company, of your API. And then business development, there will be more high-level deals with big companies like Netflix and Microsoft, and then you need a business development. But the cool things about that is that you actually don't need sales because an API is a kind of self-service business model. Someone sign up, get API keys, start to consume, and it's pretty much done. There is the documentation, you don't need you need support after it, but you can kind of lock it in without any sales pitch. And this is something new. Like in 2007, no one was hiring those kind of positions, now they do. Obviously, there are thousands of employees. AWS, if you go AWS jobs, they're hiring 600 people, mainly engineers. They have only, it's interesting things. How many evangelists do you think AWS has around the world? Like if you have to shoot a number, like a range.
Well, they're probably 7. So.
Only 12. So they have only 12 evangelists, maybe spread out, 2 in US and then 1 in the main continent with their data center. But in all you have 12. And so that's how efficient it is once you have a very working, powerful APIs behind. You really don't need a lot of people to distribute it because it can't distribute by itself.
Are they product managers?
Yeah, it do have product management inside AWS, like it's AWS. They have DynamoDB other points, and they have DynamoDB product manager, but they're pretty much engineers product manager. And now obviously they have sales. They have way more than 12 sales. But developer managers only 12. And actually, like, I don't know if you know Twilio, the SMS company. Twilio is a startup like 200 employees, and they have more evangelists than them. They have like 50. But they're in a very fast growth phase, so I think they have to spread out awareness faster than them. So this is so eBay and Salesforce are the first one that started this by opening up their API to consume the data. eBay was actually a very interesting company because they started to open up the API only for the power user at that time to get them more tools to improve their performance on eBay. But that was like 2001. It was pretty much a vision at that time. And now every company has an API or have a platform development program. Twilio is the one that, the business model of Twilio, the way they sell is, every time you send SMS, they charge you 1 cent. So it's pretty much SMS, the option they charge for SMS, then they have volume pricing if you go up over a certain number, like 10,000 SMS per day. So API business models, they're growing very fast in the numbers of the way you can monetize them, but still the main one are developers pay, developers get paid, indirect, and there's the freemium version. To that, this game is very fragmented. So Facebook, it's an interesting platform, so the way they charge is that you actually can use your API for free, but in a way, if you build games, then you have to use the Facebook radio, every transaction passes through the Facebook monetization API, and that's actually they take a 30% cut out of the revenue of the company, Zynga or whatever. And so, in a way, it's free to use, but when you make money, we make money too. This is the simple direct Amazon pays. Amazon gets paid by developers if you access AWS resources. So this is PayPal as well, Google AdWords. Creator was an example, Stripe for payments. Developers get paid. This is it never really, except Google AdSense, it never really took off. What's happening here is that if you consume my API, actually you get paid. So, for example, let's say RDO. So RDO, they compete with Spotify. They have an API, and every time some developers build an app on top of RDO functionalities, and that app sends subscribers to RDO for $5 a month, they give that some cut, 20%, 30% back to the developers. So that's kind of affiliate marketing programmatically through APIs. Amazon as well does that with the reseller. Indirect model, this is more complicated. It's not like one way or two way. For example, the New York Times, they have a 1 point program where every time you retrieve 10 articles, so you retrieve, let's say, 10 data points, then they input in the stream some advertising. So you can use the New York Times data, but every time you use them for free, at a certain point you get some advertising into the stream as well. So they increase eyeballs. And so they increase their revenue, and you can consume New York Times for free. But there was some problem about the experience for the end user that you can't fully control him because he's going to get a lot of advertising that you really don't know what's coming up with. So it never, I think they shut down that program. But this is one of the examples that is not actually direct revenue. It's different ways of monetizing it. Advertising inside the stream is one of this. This is another example of a popular, one of the most popular APIs are sentiment analysis, face detection, older or ML APIs. And so the way they, you can't even see, but the way they charge mainly it's by face detection and face recognition. And then you get multiple plans. So as you can see, those plans looks very cheap, right? 200, 32, 800. But when you have thousands and thousands of people consuming your API, then you kind of make a sustainable revenue without having any sales. You just go here, you just subscribe, you use the API, and then actually you increase the volume, so you probably go out to more custom plans that are not even here. But the strategy for an API to sell your API is basically you put 4 plans, one always freemium to get adoption. And then once they start to get engaged, and then they'll probably move up in the stack as their apps gets more popular, they do more API calls, or in this case, more face detection, face recognition per month. So the quota increase for 400 months to 200,000 a month. And then you go up in the stack. This is another example. Yeah. Then you can include multiple features into it. Then it's pay as you go. So there are no plans like AWS, but once you consume the resource, you get charged on a monthly basis based on what you consume. The problem about this is that if you go in over charges, like if you have mass consumption of this API or whatever API it is, you're gonna get a giant bill. So developers are very bad at estimating API calls. That's why it's better to charge for different objects like SMS send, something that people understand and can predict how many SMS, like Uber. Yeah, you take a Uber, I get an SMS, I can kind of predict what's my number of booking per day, and so the SMS of, okay, your Uber is coming, it's arriving now. You can kind of predict how many SMS you send per day in the next month or two. When you do just API calls, it's very hard because one SMS can take 2 API calls. So it's a problem when you do pay as you go and you put API call as an object because you really don't know how many you're gonna use. And sometimes you wake up at night and you're a developer in a company to company credit card and you're supposed you not pay nothing or pay very few, and instead you get like a 10K bill, and then you have to explain that. API is the product, that was AWS, the first one to really, not like eBay where API is an extension of the product, but this is API is the product. And then this is how it is now. There are thousands of APIs, this is the product, making money as a product. So Strike Iron for email validation, EasyPost to ship back, now use FedEx you can ship everything through EasyPost. So if you're on a marketplace or if you're on an e-commerce site and you always have to ship things, you just integrate EasyPost. You can ship stuff, and basically are AWS for shipment. Braintree for monetization. This is like porn filter. This is for educational data. This is music lyrics, weather predictions, data analysis, mobile platforms. This is probably Nodex, and this is one of the most popular financial data platform. They sell all the financial data through APIs.
So those are all the frameworks that the APIs driving.
Yeah. Those are all companies where APIs is their core product, is their business, is everything. The way they sell their software is only through APIs. There's no consumption, no sales. Only developers can interact with those companies. This is Braintree is one of the main payments API solutions. If you have to integrate payments in your API, you use 3 or 4 providers. Authorize.net is the oldest one, but it's the more complex one because you need to have PCI compliance and be a gateway too. Braintree and Stripe are the most simple one. There aren't many now. It's kind of becoming a commodity. There's actually become a commodity in every single vertical. Like Twilio was the first SMS API company. Now there are 55 SMS API companies in the world. So in every single vertical, there were just one API. Now there are many APIs that consumer can choose from and just get what they want at a very good price. This is actually now processing 15 billion a year, and they take 2.9% per each transaction. So let's say you make 100 million revenue, then they take 2.9 million plus 30 cents per transaction. Obviously, the majority of this goes to Visa, MasterCard, so their margins are much lower, around 0.1 to 0.2. So the margin is very bad. But those companies just works on volume. GitHub, Uber, Airbnb, they all run on them. And it's bad because you have to do like 1 billion in volume to actually make $1 million in revenue at the end. So in net. This was the overall product API. So AWS actually did, through their APIs, 4 billion in revenue last year. That was 2012. So it's growing very, very fast. And if you just take AWS out of Amazon and you put on the New York Stock Exchange, it's probably more than 20 billion companies alone. And that's exactly, it's just an API company, that's what it is. Those are like eBay APIs that use as an extension of their product. Now, Box, I don't know if you've been there, but Box last week was the Box Developer Conference, not the main conference, just the Box for Developers, the first time they did it this year. And they had an API and a platform for a while, but it was always free and was always connected with the business model of their main offering, so like $5 per seat per user, or depends on the plan, 15. And now with the API, you go developer the Box, they change completely, and API is kind of now a standalone product with its own business model, and they charge per transaction and per file uploads. So it's completely but unrelated with the main business model. Before, you can use API only if you access like the premium plan, and then API was just a feature in the main plan for the consumers of the enterprise. Now API is just a standalone product. If you need a storage solution, okay, you can go to Dropbox, you can go to AWS, and then you can go to Rackspace, and also now you can go to Box and just access the Box as a platform for storage. This is Expedia. Expedia, this is a little bit more than that. It's like 3 billion a year, all down through their API. So the revenue coming through API is just 3 billion. What it means is that application like Monk being built on top of Expedia inventory, and every time they retrieve API, they sell a ticket, they take a transaction cut, and that's where the 2 billion a year are coming from. So that's very different market in just a few years. Do you know what is the API in the world, the public API in the world that is generating more revenue than anyone else? You have to guess, what's the company, the product that is generating more billions than any other company product in the world through their APIs? That should be, that's, if you think about it, it's quite easy. Apple? Close. Yeah, you mean the Apple App Store for the transactions monetization. Yeah, that's close. But it's actually way older than that, than the App Store. And they do around 20 to 30 billion a year. Yeah, eBay too is in the top. But the problem is that a lot of revenue is gross volume. It's GMV, it's not the actual revenue. This one is really day revenue. It's Google AdWords and Google AdSense, but mainly Google AdWords. Now, majority of revenue from Google AdWords comes through APIs. When they launched Google AdWords, remember there was widget, you put in the website, HTML. Now it's sold through APIs because you can better integrate into any mobile, into any website, and so you can provide a much better experience for the consumers. So all the Google AdWords and Google AdSense, majority of the revenue is happening through APIs. So when you go and you look at quoted by Google in terms of advertising revenue, think about majority that is coming to every single API call. So that's something that moved through about 4 years ago to be just API-centric advertising platform. Now, when you have a data company and you want to monetize your data, you also need tools to manage and monetize your data. So there's another market as well, which AT&T project about 5 billion in 2016 only on the tools to manage your data for your to manage your API for your internal user, your external user, or even for consuming APIs, you need tools as well. So I would guess that I should update this. I said that this is really your business model, or it can be for sure an extension of your business model if you have a lot of data. Instead of having an Excel, now like Dan Bresky, now instead of giving you high-level contracts and you Excel or file, you just push out an API, you document it, and then developers will find out and will start to consume it, and they can be developers from a garage, or developers from a startup, or developers from a Fortune 500. So that's the beauty. I want to give an example of an interesting one. So this is a 23andMe for genetic testing. Office very close to here. And after they accumulate all this data about the people, now they have an API where you can actually retrieve a lot of unique data about genetic information around the world. So, and they just started, and I think the opportunity is endless, where applications can build on top of their data, and the data they have are very, very, very unique, and no one has it in the world. The FDA blocked them about health records, but the untrusted part, that's what they're providing to the API. It's amazing, and who knows what developers can build on top. This is they had like a year and a half ago, and that was a company that started with a mission to map the entire genetic of the entire population. And after 5-6 years, they say, okay, you know what? We have a lot of data. How we can make it available for developers? We can build amazing apps on top. Boom, API.23andMe. And now the documentation, now everyone can sign up and retrieve chest information anonymously, obviously because there are privacy reasons. But if you have to do research and things, I think this is just the beginning of the API revolution. And then they go everywhere, eligible. This is for health, exchange data as well. So they go in every single direction. And I think we're just at the beginning, but you will see more and more APIs coming into big companies and selling to companies, and the market can just grow and grow for the next 10 years. It's just, I think about the industrial revolution, where you have the assembly line and you can pick up the components you want, and then you cut it down cost and time, and then you have every Ford, and then you had a Ford with a car that was available for the masses. And now with the software, because we built APIs internally, you can build way faster, and then you make it public, and others can build way faster in infrastructure too, so the innovation can just accelerate. And what we get is mass distribution, because all the software goes everywhere, and every mobile, every device around the world, way much faster at a cheaper price. So I think we're kind of the industrial revolution in a way of software because of the API that we can make similar to the industry where you had components that you assemble. Third-party components or components you build on your own. Thank you. Thank you, guys. If you have any question about whatever monetization of the APIs are planning to, or where to find resources to consume, to strategy, whatever it is, just ping me. I'm here. Thanks for the app.